coming into this next step, starting working with our ground, we're going to tell it to identify a couple things for us. The first thing I need to do in my scripting is to talk about what my ground is. So I'm going to tell it to do the bool and grounded equals false. Remember, we created that bool back when we did our animator here. So now we're actually going to reference it here in our script. And I want to use that bool when I'm using my public transform of what an object I'm going to create here, and it's going to be my ground check object. And then I want to use a float on that ground check. And this float is going to be equal to a 0.2 float. And I want the radius. I'm going to add a circle collider, and it's going to have a radius of 0.2. And then the last thing is I'm going to create a layer, but I'm going to ask what that layer is. Public layer mask, what is ground? And we're going to identify what our ground is. So using those terms, we're going to come down into our script right after anim set float in our fixed update. And I'm going to hit enter. We're going to type in grounded equals physics 2D, because that's what we're going to use, dot overlap circle. And the information we're going to use for that overlapping circle is our ground check. Dot position, comma, we're going to use our ground radius. And we're going to use what is ground. And go outside of that and add our semicolon. And then we need to talk about our animator that we set that as a parameter. So anim.setBool, parentheses, quotations, and here's where we're going to tell it what bool we set and reference our variable that we are using. So anim.setBool, ground, comma, grounded. And we have one more set that we're going to add in here. And right now you saw that we can do this endless jumping, but we want to limit that. And we're going to limit it so that we can have what's called a double jump. So you can jump twice, but once you jump twice, you have to return to the ground before you can jump in again. So in this one, I'm going to type if, parentheses, we are not, that's what an exclamation point means, not grounded, equals true, parentheses, we want to return. That's as simple as that, and that will get rid of that multiple jumps that we're going to do. We still have a couple things we need to do, so we're going to come down to private void update, and we have our if input, and right before this input, we're going to talk about using our grounded. So if we're grounded, and we press the space bar, we want it to reference that anim.setBool, parentheses, quotations, ground, ground, go outside of that, comma, will be false. And go outside of that, and semicolon. So if we are grounded and we press the space bar, we can go ahead and jump because our ground will be false. And using that jump force that we added in. So our scripting is done for our player at this time to get him to jump, to get him to flip, and to get the animations to work with his walk.